This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. We also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 1st of September 2021, and I am Miss K.
I am Tuum.
And I am JM. In case you missed the headlines this morning, here they are. In the Daily Nation, pressure piles for Uhuru RUTO handshake. In the Standard, DP RUTO's 10-day test as MATIANG'I faces MPs. That should be demolishes. MATIANG'I demolishes William RUTO before MPs. In fact, in the Star, why Raila allies are at war with Tycoon Wanjigi. And People Daily, DP changes tune on Guards shuffle. Indeed, he changed tune yesterday.
But
he was saying,
too late.
You know, he was saying yesterday, oh, the MPs don't need to be questioning MATIANG'I. And he probably had a sense that he was going to be demolished there. It hasn't been a good day. Foreboding to him. Take it away.
He's been annihilated. CS Fred MATIANG'I today told us that RUTO is guarded by 257 policemen. This makes him the best protected deputy president on the continent. No one compares. In fact, RUTO is better protected than the president of Africa's wealthiest country, South Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa is protected by 81 elite officers. Can you imagine? Chief Hasura, who is not even president, has more security than Ramaphosa? But that's not all. CS MATIANG'I may have inadvertently revealed RUTO's land wealth. For a bit, I actually admired his portfolio. Over 18,400 acres of land,
wow.
5 choppers,
wow.
interest in petroleum, hotels, agribusiness. The man has jipangaed. But something got me. It was the 18,400 acres. I asked myself, could he have accumulated 18,000 acres of land in just 8 years? See, if he has acquired 18,400 acres in the last 8 years, it means that since 2013, he has acquired 2,300 acres every single year. This means that by 2032, he'll have acquired 43,700 acres, assuming his appetite for land remains constant.
Oh, yes.
If he triples his appetite as president, he will accumulate 6,900 acres every year for 10 years.
Yes.
This means that by 2032, RUTO will own over 120,000 acres of land. Now, if each acre of land is valued at an average of 10 million shillings, his worth on land alone will be 1.2 trillion shillings. In short, RUTO will be twice as wealthy as Rwanda.
My goodness.
A whole country, have the same valuation as Safaricom, and be valued the same as Equity Bank. In fact, he won't need to call James Mwangi of Equity for a loan. Museveni himself will be asking RUTO for a loan. But that's not the point. See, if his largest piece of land is around 15,000 acres, which, as the Nation newspaper reported, was allegedly grabbed, does it mean all the 120,000 acres he'll acquire by 2032 will be grabbed? And if RUTO has been convicted of grabbing Adrian Muteshi's 100 acres and accused of grabbing KAA's land where Weston sits when he's just a deputy, how much of Kenya's land is he capable of grabbing when he is president? And to you Hasura zombies, do you know who you are about to elect?
Clearly not, but he is being unmasked day by day.
Absolutely.
Now, today I would like to hypothesize on the fall of William RUTO. And it's happening right before our eyes.
Yes.
So a few weeks ago, RUTO suffered a great loss when he was denied permission to travel to Uganda.
Yes.
That, many of you may not realize, was the beginning of his end for his 2022 political journey to the presidency. Let me explain. In the world of politics and in the world of political fraudsters and political brokers, weakness isn't pitied, it is exploited.
Yeah.
When he was blocked by the state,
yes,
the message that went out to his partners in crime,
yes,
these folks in Turkey,
yes,
folks in Dubai, Congo,
yes,
Uganda,
yes,
Sudan,
yes,
they did not feel worship for him.
Kabisa.
That's not how it works in the hood.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
They saw a powerless man.
Absolutely.
Now, according to Bruce Mesquita in the Dictator's Handbook, right, that perception of powerlessness this is the worst thing that can happen to a ruler.
Yes.
Right? Powerlessness, particularly as far as money is concerned.
Absolutely.
Going bankrupt, the
Yes.
prospect of going bankrupt.
Yes.
Any sign of bankruptcy is an indication of impending, inevitable political death.
Ooh.
So, his weakness at this point will be exploited. And all those brokers who have been allegedly stashing money away for him and investing some of those monies in their banks abroad, they'll turn on him.
Yes.
They will confiscate his resources, right? With impunity, for that matter. And this is why General Muhoozi,
Yes.
Museveni's son, who has been doing business with RUTO, could last week come out with a tweet that reads as follows.
Yes.
Afande Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, President of Kenya, and a very great man.
Yeah.
Nobody can stop reggae.
I love it.
God bless him.
Yes.
You see, Uhuru here has been very smart.
Yes.
He's applied the befriending a distant enemy
Yeah.
to attack an enemy nearby. That's the strategy. And using this approach,
Yeah.
the incumbent makes an alliance with an uncommon friend, an unlikely friend, to defeat a common enemy tactfully, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So the world leaders of these countries are under instruction not to release RUTO's money. In fact, keep
Yes.
it for yourselves. If you find it,
Yes.
keep it.
Yes.
And there's no point of repatriating it back home.
Yeah. It's called
And once-
finders keepers.
Precisely, finders keepers.
Yes.
And once this is done, RUTO will be financially bankrupt.
Yes.
Hence why he's been telling people that he will either form the next government or be a part of that government.
Yes.
So don't be lied to, Kenyans. RUTO is a master of bluff,
Yes.
but he really has a soft underbelly.
Yes.
So finally, as I conclude, a word of advice to William Ruto. What should he do in the face of these challenging times? Well, he would do well to recall the words of General Sao Sao,
Yes.
who once said, "A good fighter is not ashamed to run away. Only those who can lose can also win."
Yes.
Stubbornness right now is leading William Ruto down a blind alley.
Yes.
As we speak, there is a hopeless situation looming on the horizon for him. So what he ought to do is to retreat. The benefit of retreating now is that he will retreat on his own terms as opposed to the terms of others. And this will allow him to preserve his strength and to keep his options open as well. And if he doesn't tread carefully, he risks losing his entire political career.
What a waste.
He has entire farm in a chicken farm.
Sindio?
Hiyo anaweza enda kuchukua.
Cool as heels.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take a deviation a little bit and turn away from William Ruto and discuss ODM and Raila for a moment. And the headline by the Star, "Why Raila Allies Are at War with Tycoon Wanjigi," caught my eye today. And in my view, ODM has been experiencing a moment of political lull. And a political lull, this is a period of temporary political quiet. And this political lull within ODM was caused by two things. One, the cooptation of Raila and by extension the party ODM into government through the 2018 handshake. And two, the retreat of ODM deputy party leaders and bigwigs from 2022 politicking as they wait on Babaman to declare his intentions. I mean, when was the last time you had anything from Wycliffe Oparanya or Joho? Anyway, what is important for the ODM leadership is to note that moments of political lull breed two contesting forces.
Yes.
The first force is innovation. Innovation in this context means the emergence and testing of new creative ideas that will transform established ways of doing politics. Ideally, these innovations should be driven by the powers that be, i.e. Raila. The second force is mischief. Mischief in this context is the construction of negative narratives that distract the public and undermine the workings of the party. This mischief is usually driven by anti-hegemonic forces, that is, those opposed to the existing status quo within the party, i.e. Raila.
Yeah.
So if Raila does not seize the current political lull within ODM and use it innovatively, then the ODM party will experience political mischief. And in fact, some mischief has begun to make itself manifest this week through Jimmy Wanjigi. Wanjigi is calling for Raila to retire and allow fresh blood to lead the country. And he's aggressively pushing his own presidential candidature, and he's undermining the party regulations and procedures by opening parallel party offices that are dedicated to him. In our view, Raila would do well to take control of his party and guide the public narrative by decisively addressing the current mischief that is at play within ODM. Raila should state that he is the flag bearer for ODM. We all know it, and Sifuna should issue a direct nomination confirming this. But Raila should also define and differentiate the roles and responsibilities of the other people, those ODM people, Oparanya, Joho, even Wanjigi, what they will do. Then the other ODM people will be forced to stick to Raila's terms.
You know, dawa ya nyoko nyoko,
Ni fimbo.
ni fimbo,
Yes.
men in black.
Absolutely.
Hiyo ndio kawaida.
Fimbo na nyahunyo.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is exactly what Raila should do.
Yeah.
So no
To these
nyoko
rebels.
nyoko in his party.
Absolutely. Anyway, we've got a three-part criteria that we use to assess the headlines: topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, and thoughtful or just plain lazy. What do you guys think? I think I quite like that People Daily. DP
Yes.
changes tune on God's shuffle.
That
I do
is
like
the
that.
winning one.
Wonderful. So we toss the rest. And now, on to our final thought. But before we get there, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that like button. Follow us on TikTok. I'm at Maina Kangema. 2M. Twitter.
K Maina.
Yes.
Kanda Bongo on Twitter.
Kandabongo.
Yes, Kanda Bongo.
Me, I'm just a J Kambuni.
That's right. TikTok and Twitter.
On Twitter.
So, what is our final thought?
And now our final thought, it is inspired by the East Asian economic miracle.
The theme for Final Thought this week is economic miracles. Yesterday we began with the Dutch economic miracle, the first in the world, and today we're looking at the Asian tigers. Now, from 1965 to 1990, the 23 economies of East Asia grew faster than all other regions in the world. Most of this achievement was attributable to the seemingly miraculous growth of just 8 economies. Japan, the 4 Asian tigers, Hong Kong, the Republic of Korea,
Yeah.
Singapore and Taiwan, China, and the 3 newly industrializing economies of Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand.
Wow.
The dramatic economic growth of these 8 countries has become known, or has come to be
Yes.
known as the East Asian miracle.
That's right.
The 4 Asian tigers, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea and Taiwan, are named after the aggressive beasts that are native to East Asia, the tigers. These countries transitioned from the predominantly agrarian societies of the 1960s to industrialized
Yeah.
nations. The economic growth was marked by high development, annual economic growth exceeding 70% between the 1960s and 1990s, and specialization in areas of competitive advantage.
Oh, yes.
Hong Kong and Singapore became international financial centers, while South Korea and Taiwan specialized in manufacturing electronic components and devices, as well as information technology.
Brilliant.
The 4 Asian tigers share the following common characteristics: a sharp focus on exports, an educated population, and general improved standards of living.
That's right.
In 1993, the World Bank released a controversial report titled The East Asian Miracle. The report credited neoliberal policies with the economic boom.
False.
These included the maintenance of export-oriented policies, low taxes, and minimal welfare states. The report claimed that since the 8 Asian economies used very different combinations of policies, from hands-off to highly interventionist, there was no single East Asian model of development, and there was nothing miraculous about the East Asian economy's success. Well, personally, I am a little persuaded by the popular belief that the Asian tigers grew rapidly because they were ruled by authoritarian leaders.
I'll be talking a little bit about that.
I like that. As Rosalind Carter said, a leader takes people where they want to go. A great leader takes people where they don't necessarily want to go, but where they ought to be.
That's right.
So Singapore's Lee Kuan Yew, South Korea's Park Chung-hee, and Taiwan's Chiang Kai-shek were not economists. They made pragmatic decisions that were for the people despite the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't have said that better. As you've become an evangelist, a
I've
believer,
become a believer
the Bad
of
Samaritans.
the Bad Samaritans model.
Model, absolutely. So anyway, the successes of the East Asian economies stems partly from the policies they adopted, yes, but also in large part to creating a conducive environment for economic breakthroughs to happen.
Right.
So having a system which allows economic breakthroughs is about creating institutions that promote growth in the economy. And here's how it happened in East Asia. Number one is a highly competent and empowered bureaucracy. Now, the best rendition of this is known as bureaucratic authoritarianism. And this is partly what you're talking about, Ms. K, where a professional military man leads the government. So Park Chan-hee, for example, that was a soldier who did a coup on a civilian government. You had the same thing, I think, in Thailand, as well as Indonesia, even Singapore. I mean, all these guys at that time had a bit of a military background, right? So you got the military man at the top, but they've delegated the running of the government to a merit-based and professional league of civil servants committed to modernizing the country's infrastructure, right? Now, that term was coined following a series of successful military-led governments in South America as well as Southeast Asia in the 1960s, including, amongst others, Brazil, Chile, Argentina. Right? And in these countries, while military men kept order with varying degrees of harshness and human rights violations, civilian economists and technocrats would direct most other policy, hence the term bureaucratic authoritarianism. The foremost case in point here being, at least in South America, Chile under General Augusto Pinochet,
Yes.
Who handed over the economy to the Chicago Boys.
Yes. Milton Friedman.
Yes, absolutely, and we could say the same thing of what President Uhuru Kenyatta has managed to do in Nairobi. Kick out this clown buffoon,
Yes.
Soko, very unserious guy. You bring in General Badi, you build hospitals, you do things for the population, for the people, despite the people, as you're saying.
Yes.
But there are three other additional things that the East Asian countries did with their bureaucracies. One, good pay.
Yes.
The salaries of bureaucrats usually...
Except in Singapore.
You're
right.
Precisely. Except for Singapore, usually fell short of those for equivalent positions in the private sector. So they tried as best as they could to match.
Absolutely.
Number two,
yes.
rules and procedures governing public sector employment were institutionalized so that public service workers could be insulated from political interventions. So in particular, recruitment and promotion was merit-based. And this is very important, as you know, for retention of the best and morale.
Absolutely.
Third, as far as the bureaucracy is concerned, public employment was accorded high status. This high status and prestige improved the quality of the bureaucracy, created an esprit de corps among civil servants that helped insulate, once again, the bureaucracy from political pressures. And finally, as far as institutions are concerned, this was a very interesting innovation on their part. Each of these highly performing governments created institutions to improve communication with the private sector. So these were called the formal deliberation councils, and they all had them, all these economies, and they were established, in these economies to routinely bring together key stakeholders in the country. So government officials, journalists, labor representatives, academics, and other professionals. And so the economic and political benefits of these councils and of the more informal mechanisms, we're told they're impossible to measure systematically, but for sure, as was recorded in the World Bank report, they helped establish a commitment to shared growth, and they even reduced the opportunities for rent seeking, for corruption.
Yes.
I do agree with that, and I think when I think about those tribunals or committees you're talking about, the one I can think about that comes closest to mind that helped us weather COVID was the COVID committee.
Yeah.
That brought together government and private sector in a way that reduced our costs and enabled us to become a bastion in this region, at least.
Absolutely.
The COVID Fund Committee. Now, when I see the rise of the Asian tigers from the 1960s, I very much see Kenya's rise as an economic power. See, the growth is similar. The drivers are different, but the foundational pillars of infrastructure, innovation, and education are the same. Without this, no country, no matter how many wheelbarrows you make, will be successful. Now, allow me to say why. There was an intentional plan by the East Asian tigers to involve the state in the economic revival. South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore, the governments encouraged export-oriented policies, lower progressive and consumption taxes, and minimal welfare states. In Singapore, they had one objective, manufacturing. Industrial estates were set up and foreign investment was attracted to the country with tax incentives. Meanwhile, Taiwan and South Korea began to industrialize in the mid-1960s with heavy government involvement, including initiatives and policies. Both countries pursued export-oriented industrialization, as in Hong Kong and Singapore. The result was phenomenal. From the 60s to the 90s, each of those Asian tigers had an average growth of 7% every year. Can you imagine, for 30 years, a country maintaining economic growth of 7%? That's big time. Anyway, now the 4 Asian tigers now constitute 3.46% of the world's economy with a total GDP of $3 trillion US. The reason why I say Kenya's story is the same is that the state has focused on the same 3 things: infrastructure, innovation, and education.
That's right.
Kenya's road network is on steroids. We have built 4 times more kilometers of road than what Jomo, Moi, and Kibaki did combined. We have an extra 1,000 kilometers of new rail. We have connected more Kenyans to power than any other African country has in the last 8 years. We have built ports, airports. Kenya is the largest mobile money market globally, with over 5 trillion shillings worth of wealth. I mean, just 8 years ago, Kenya was Africa's 12th richest country. Now we are Africa's 6th wealthiest nation. From a GDP of just $50 billion to a GDP of $111 billion. And we haven't taken off yet. And this is simply because your president had a plan and implemented it valiantly. Take note, we don't have oil, we don't have diamonds, we don't have gold or timber. All we have is a superior workforce, just like the 4 Asian giants. Then some zombies tell us about wheelbarrows. Washindwe.
Washindwe, indeed.
Washindwe.
Today we had a winning headline from the People's Daily, and I'd like to leave you with a quote, an old Chinese saying, and this is for all the Uhuru haters out there, inspired by what you've said to
Yes.
those that say it can't be done shouldn't get in the way of those that are doing it.
Kaboom.
Have a good evening. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also on your TV screens. Find us on Pang Free to Air, Go TV, and Star Times.